Welcome to 5.1, Function Composition. This is also referred to as composing functions. When we see something like this little open dot, it is not a degree symbol. A degree symbol is higher up, but it looks like one. And in math, we say of. So the first thing we're going to be finding is f of h of -2. We can rewrite this to look like something that's a little bit more visually appealing, f of h of -2. Let's take a little bit of inventory on this problem first. We have three functions that are given. F of x is given graphically, while g of x and h of x are given algebraically as equations. The first thing that we want to do is work our way from the inside out. So the first thing is to find h of -2. Again, I rewrote this. This right here, f of h of -2, is equivalent to writing it like this way, and they're both read f of h of -2. So let's find h of -2. I'm going to do that off to the side. How do we do that? Well, we know how to do that. We just plug -2 into the h function. So we'll have the absolute value of -2. Remember, an absolute value is a number's distance from 0 on a number line, and it's always positive or 0 since distance cannot be negative. So the absolute value of -2 is simply 2. So in our next line, what I'm going to do is replace h of -2 with what it equaled. It equaled 2. So we're really finding f of 2. F of 2 is the y value, the output, when we input an x of 2. So when x is 2, our output is 0 because on f of x, we have the coordinate point 2, 0. So f of 2 equals 0. Therefore, or in conclusion, f of h of -2 is 0. In number 2, we'll find g of f of -2, and again, we can rewrite it so it's a little bit more visually appealing and easier to understand. We want to work our way from the inside out, so the first thing that we're going to find is f of -2. This is on our function, so f of -2 is the output or the y value when x is -2. So we have the coordinate point -2, 2, right here. Therefore, f of -2 is +2. So we can rewrite this as g of 2 because f of -2 is 2. I just replaced it and made it simpler. Now we're working on the outside part. We worked our way from the inside out. G of 2, that means we're going to plug 2 in to the g of x function. So this equals the square root of 4 minus 2, so it equals the square root of 2. We could find the decimal approximation, but this is sufficient. In number 3, we want to find h of g of -21. It's funny because it looks like it says hog. So we can again rewrite it, h of g of -21. So the first thing that we're finding is g of -21. So we want to find g of -21 by plugging -21 into this g function. So it's 4 minus -21. So we end up having the square root of 25, which is 5. So then we can plug in and find h of 5. The h function, whatever goes into it, we take the absolute value of it. The absolute value of 5 is 5, and that is our final answer. In the first 3 examples, we had an input that was a numerical value, so just a number, and therefore we got a number out as our output. That's basically the rule of thumb. If you input a number into a composed function like this, then you'll get a number out. But what about if we input an x? That means we're going to get a function out, an equation with x in it. So finding h of g of x will not give us a numerical output anymore, but rather create a new function or compose a new function. Once again, we can rewrite this so it's a little bit visually easier to understand. We're finding h of g of x. That means we're plugging the g of x function into the h function. I'm going to rewrite this one more time. using the colors that I've used. So h of g of x, what is g of x? It is the square root of 4 minus x. So I'm just going to rewrite it with the square root of 4 minus x. So that means into our h function here, we're going to plug in the square root of 4 minus x. So our h function says, take the absolute value of anything you plug in. So this is going to be the absolute value of our input, which is the square root of 4 minus x. So in conclusion, our new function that we've composed, h of g of x, equals the absolute value of the square root of 4 minus x. Can we go the other way? Sure, we can find g of h of x as well. Again, this means find g of h of x. So I can rewrite this as g of the absolute value of x. So in our g function, everywhere there's an x, we're going to plug in the absolute value of x. So therefore, the new function we've composed or created, g of h of x, is the square root of 4 minus the absolute value of x. Let's take a look at this example here. F of x is a quadratic binomial and g of x is a linear binomial. And this is extremely similar to the problem on your assignment, which is really weird because I just looked at it. So 2's and 3's, I guess, are common numbers here. All right, we want to first find f of g of x and then find g of f of x. So we're composing these two functions both ways. To find f of g of x, we are really doing this. If it helps you to rewrite it this way, feel free to. After a while, you can sort of get used to it without doing this extra step, but I like just the visual aspect of it rather than this. All right, so we want to plug in the g of x function, x plus 3, into the f of x function. So the f of x function says whatever input, we do 2 minus that input squared. So we're inputting x plus 3. So we're taking f of x plus 3. So we are doing 2 minus, and then our input, x plus 3, and squaring it right here. All right, to square x plus 3, we know that we just don't get x squared plus 9. Please don't do that. We want to do x plus 3 times x plus 3. So we'll square the first term, square the last term, and then to get that middle term, the o and the I of the FOIL, if that's how you're doing this, we'll multiply x times 3, 3x, and then double it. Since the o and the I terms are the same, they end up getting added together. Whoops, so it's plus 6x. All right, be careful when you are subtracting. Again, I can never say that enough times. So we're going to distribute the minus sign through. So we'll have 2 minus x squared minus 6x minus 9. When we're writing our final function, because we are composing, aka creating a new function with this, let's write it in such a way that the terms, the degrees of each term are in descending order. So we'll have the quadratic term first, the linear term second, and the 2 minus 9, so the minus 7 or constant term last. So f of g of x is a quadratic trinomial. G of f of x is a very similar process, but it's actually not going to be as bad. So we are taking g of the f of x function, which is 2 minus x squared. The g function says whatever the input is, you just add 3 to it. So to find g of 2 minus x squared, we are doing 2 minus x squared and adding 3 to it. So we'll end up with writing it in the same way that I described before. We'll get negative x squared plus 5. So g of f of x, GOF, is negative x squared plus 5. It is a quadratic binomial. Now when we compose new functions, we can at times create functions that have a new domain. And so we do have to be cognizant of being careful of when we compose and create a new function to definitely make sure that we lay out the law in terms of domain. So when we take a look at f of x and g of x, they are both just polynomials, no x under a root, no x in a denominator. Therefore, the domain of f and g, the original, so the domain of f and g, the original functions, is all real numbers, negative to positive infinity. The domain of our new composed functions is the same. So the domain of f of g and g of f, sorry for my chicken scratch here, is also all reals, because once again, they are just polynomials. In the next example, we're going to see where the domain can definitely change when composing two functions that aren't just polynomials. In this example, we again have f of x and g of x, and we are going to compose them going both ways. F of x is a linear monomial, one term, and g of x is a rational function. So the domain of f of x is all reals. As we can see here, there's no restrictions on the domain, whereas g of x does have one restriction on the domain, and our domain is all real numbers except negative 3, which we can write in interval notation to exclude negative 3. That means that when we compose these functions, there is definitely going to be at least one of them where we again have a restriction on the domain. So we'll discuss that after we've composed the functions. First, we want to find f of g of x, which means that we're finding f of g of x. G of x is 4 over x plus 3. The f function says that whatever our input is, to output, we multiply by negative 8. So our input is 4 over x plus 3, so we are going to simply multiply that input by negative 8. Now, if you like to think of negative 8 as negative 8 over 1, I suggest that you rewrite it as that, because whenever we're multiplying fractions, I like to keep it consistent and have everything represented as a fraction. That way, when multiplying two fractions, we multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. I say this because sometimes students will multiply this negative 8 not only by the top, but also by the bottom, which is wrong. So we'll end up with negative 32 in the numerator, and our denominator doesn't change from x plus 3 since we're only multiplying it by 1. Nothing can be simplified here, so f of g of x is this rational function here. So since we've created a new function that does have a restriction on the domain, we should write the domain out. So the domain of this new function that we've created is all reals except negative 3. So it's from negative infinity to negative 3, union negative 3 to infinity. That is writing the domain in interval notation to restrict one number. We can also write it, if it does not say to write in interval notation, you can always write the domain as x cannot equal negative 3. That's just like kind of like a math slang almost. It's like a simplified way to write it, saying everything but this number. Now let's compose the other way, g of f of x. So we're finding g of f of x. F of x is negative 8x. And so we're going to be plugging negative 8x into this function here. The g of x function says whatever the input is, do 4 divided by the input plus 3. So I'm going to replace this input x with negative 8x. So we'll have 4 over negative 8x plus 3. I can't factor anything out in the denominator to potentially cancel with the 4 in the numerator. Therefore, this is simplified. And so g of f of x is another rational function, 4 over negative 8x plus 3. Now, when we are writing this, again, we can see that we do have a restriction on the domain. Therefore, since we've composed or created a new function, we do need to talk about the domain. So in order to find the domain, if you can't just do it in your head real quick, we want to take the denominator and say, hey, that denominator can't be 0. So we'll subtract 3 from both sides and then divide both sides by -8. So x can't equal 3/8. So our domain, writing it in interval notation, is very similar to the other domain where we're just excluding one value. So our domain in interval notation excludes +3/8 since that is our one restriction for this rational function that we have created. Now, what if we wanted to go a bit further and plug in some numbers here? So what I've done is simply wrote out the 4 functions, the 2 original functions, and then the new functions that we have found. And if we are asked to plug in a number, let's say we wanted to find f of g of 1. There are 2 ways we can now do this. We now have a function called f of g, and we could simply plug in 1 into that function. Or we could do it the old way from the first example in this video and go step by step. So I'm going to show you how we can do this in 2 different ways. So the first way is just plugging into your f of g function. So f of g of 1 equals -32 over 1 plus 3. -32 divided by 4 equals -8. And that should be our answer. We can also do this another way, and that way involves going and using both of the original f and g functions. So to find f of g of 1, that really means finding f of g of 1. So the first thing we'll do is find g of 1. G of 1 means plugging 1 into the g function, so we'll have 4 over 1 plus 3, which is 4 over 4, which happens to be 1. So g of 1 happens to be 1. Then that really means we're finding f of 1, since g of 1 was just 1. So we can plug 1 into the f function and get -8 times 1, which is -8. So either way, we get the answer of -8. But once you've already created the function, you can just simply use that function. Now, the only time when that might not be a great idea is if maybe you're unsure if you did it right. And so if you did make a mistake in finding the composed function, then obviously the composed function might not give you the correct answer. I do always recommend double checking your work and going with the original functions that were provided, but I just wanted to show you the 2 ways that you can evaluate a composed function.